I look at
At
the
least not
episodes.
live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people do look at them live
yeah,
later.
yeah. Well, hey, how's it going?
Whew, it's going. Sorry, I'm a bit
Yeah.
sweaty and pimply because it's warm in Vancouver.
Is it?
I don't know if it's like that where you are. I know you're just a little bit south of me, but holy moly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, we're in a lucky position because
Right.
on Bainbridge Island, like the main temperature on most of the island, like in downtown Winslow, which is the main town,
Mhm.
it's always about in summer, it's about 10 degrees warmer there than it
Okay.
is here. It's always about 10 degrees cooler. And in wintertime, it's always about 10 degrees warmer.
Oh, nice, because you're by the water, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really cool.
So it's yeah, I guess it's the water that's kind of keeping an even
Right.
temperature for a long time, and yeah, so it's great.
That is phenomenal. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got an AC. If it's bothering you in terms of sound, let me know.
Oh,
I can
okay.
turn it off. But yeah, I'm just trying to eat the mic here a little bit so I can
Yeah.
stay cool.
Yeah, the we just got a not an AC, but based on the conversation last time,
Mhm.
I think I mentioned that I an air purifier because of
Right.
so
Canadian smoke.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, Canadians. And it's great. I mean, it's a nice little fan. It kind of it's not making the air cooler, but it's blowing over you, so it's
Right. It feels
cooling.
cooler. Yeah.
Um, and uh, and I feel like I'm not as I don't know, loopy.
Yeah, like when we were talking about your room and like lack of oxygen. The
Yeah.
other thing I worry about, we were talking about measurement. Does it allow you to measure the filter if it's a purifier? Because there's generally like a is it like activated carbon or something? The only
Yeah.
thing that concerns me is like with the Dysons, which is what I use, they have this thing that checks the filter, but like I replaced one, for example, and as soon as I replaced it, it said that it was already in need of replacement. So I just
Mm.
and I don't know what the status is any longer at the top
Yeah,
side.
I don't know if it's just a timer that is counting down and
Right.
you need to reset the timer when you put a new one in.
Yeah, you got it. It like because it's not actually checking the
Yeah,
filter.
no.
It's yeah, it's just running through a
I
timer.
mean I guess I mean it's got a measurement, thing in it. And so
Of like your
as
room's air quality,
yeah,
probably. Yeah.
and so as the air quality gets worse, the fans goes faster, pulling more air through it, which is pretty neat.
And
But
I say this because everything has to relate to DevOps. But like, if you're trying to make something better, the question is like, can you
can you
measure
measure it?
that
Yeah,
it's better? I'm so
I
sorry to
do like
always
the
rope work into this stuff, but like honestly, it's pretty important to me.
yeah. I mean, I do like the graphs that it produces, like
Okay.
and on the iPhone app, it updates and shows the right around the time that we cook anything, we see the air quality go down,
Yeah, it's
and
interesting. Eh?
then the fan go up, and gradually the air quality comes back down to a good level, or so it goes. It seems to be the reverse of what I'd expect. The air quality
Gets better while you cook
it
as
gets
opposed to after.
better afterwards.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's yeah,
It.
but
I.
the graph as it gets worse goes
Yeah.
up,
Right, right. The
and
particular matter goes up. Yeah,
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 that's right. Yeah. Whereas
it's
you're thinking the qualitative air quality
yeah.
should be
Oh,
going
so higher is
down.
better. No, higher is worse.
Depends what you're measuring,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So I think the one that mine checks is like PM 2.5, I think is the only
yep.
thing that it can check, which is particulate matter. Is it microns? 2.5 microns?
Yeah. So where's my? Oh, there's my phone. Oh, can I reach it? Can I reach it? Oh, I'm wired. So let's see. VSync. So on the one that's in here, it doesn't go into what does it show? It
I think mine might also have PM10, which I think is the what
yeah,
most
I
things
feel
do.
like
I just help me remember that.
I saw a graph on here somewhere.
We both got our
Um
phones out. This is scintillating. Let me
it
see.
just says air quality. Oh, I just hit the wrong button because it went high max.
Oh, there you go.
No.
Yeah, so I've got NO2, VOC, which I actually don't know, PM10 and PM2.5. And then there is actually an air quality one that kind of like wraps those together.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like what you expect to see is like, is the air good or bad?
Right. And
Or like
so on the one that's in here,
yeah.
it's just air quality is good or bad or something in the middle.
Right.
But the one that's in the main room, which is I mean, they're both from a company called Levoit.
Okay.
Lavoie. I don't know. And but the one in the other room, it's their Everest model, and it measures out PM 1.0, 2.5, and 10.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
good. 1.0
yeah,
I think is quite phenomenal.
yeah.
That's fantastic. Because I
So,
think what I noticed when I was cooking is like I was really surprised whenever any oil was involved, just how because I got one in my office, which is right by the kitchen, and I was
mhm.
amazed at how it tanks. It just the air
Yeah.
quality just
Oh yeah.
drops.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is just like frying some stuff with some
Yeah.
canola oil
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
when the
It's
toaster's on, surprisingly,
yeah.
it's just
Oh yeah.
all interesting stuff. We've also got an air fryer, and that just kills the air
Right.
quality. But it tells us that hey, you should open a window maybe after you're
Right.
done cooking. We're in a smaller place than you, obviously,
Yeah.
but like just
Well,
making sure you're
when
airing it out.
yeah, I mean, when we're cooking for just a few minutes, that air
Right.
quality goes down
Yeah.
unless we have a restaurant kind of hood
Right.
above. So it like
Nice.
I mean, when you turn that on, it's like
It's
and we
super loud.
I mean, if there's yeah, it's super loud and
It'll pick up children and stuff, dogs maybe.
if there's any like you can see in the lights, when it's like got the like smoke like flowing under. When you turn on that fan, you see all that smoke going.
All I can think is it's like UFO abduction. It's like this beam because they
Yeah,
normally
yeah,
have lights on them too, right? The hoods will
yeah,
have
I
lights.
do. Um,
This sounds
so
amazing.
yeah,
That
yeah.
I think our hood is actually really bad. Is the other thing that
Oh,
this taught us is that when we turn it on, it doesn't it does a bit of work, but I think mostly
yeah,
what it does is like circulate the air around the house,
yeah.
which is unfortunate.
No, ours has like I mean it's a big unit inside, and then
Right?
there's a big unit on the outside wall.
Oh, nice.
Like a big. I mean it's a and when you stand outside, you hear the.
Of course. I love these sound effects. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You've missed your calling. We got to get you doing like what's it called Foley? Yeah, the voice actor
Foley, yeah,
Foley,
yeah.
breaking celery and stuff.
Yep.
But seriously, I think when
Yes.
it comes to health and stuff like that, air quality, there's a few things that we need, right? There's like
Mhm.
Maslow's triangle of
Yep.
needs, and like air quality is not in there, but like a home to stay in that maybe
Mhm.
doesn't kill you is like
Yeah.
right around the base. Like
Yeah.
you need shelter essentially, and the
Yeah.
shelter needs to be safe. And I think it's
Yeah.
super important. Like drinking water is that other one. I always like to talk about like routine maintenance, like the dentist. Like there's just things that we need, and air is one of those things that we just don't really think about. But that air quality during the summer, when there's
Yeah.
forest fires, you immediately realize like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is really critical. Because like
Right.
sometimes it's so bad here,
Like
and I apologize to the Americans, but sometimes it's so bad here. It apparently it's like smoking a pack a day kind of thing, and that's
oh,
just
yeah.
awful.
Wow.
So
And
I
it's like
apologize.
another colleague of ours, who's dealing with, sewer flies at his house.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you know what they are?
no, I don't. I've not heard about this either. It sounds
Oh,
nightmarish.
okay. Well, he's on your team.
Oh no.
Oh, no, no, he's not on your team. He was
Okay,
on my team, before.
gotcha. I'll ask
I'll have to
around.
tell you afterwards.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is. Oh, I
They're
can
like
probably guess
they're
who it is
they're
actually.
basically they're flies that, apparently the in the there's some pipe that comes down from the sink that so it doesn't backflow or something,
Okay.
and the sewer flies tend to breed in that area, and that's, like, normal, and most people apparently have this, but, uh, but they kinda just stay down there,
Right. They get
but
stuck or whatever.
unless there's an exit, and, in this person's house, one of the pipes under the house cracked at some point, and it's taken a while for them to get out, but they finally found a path, and now they're finding that path every day,
There's a lot
and
to unpack here. So if the flies don't get let out, is it like literally Lord of the Flies? It's like
yeah, I know.
I can assume only a few of them can live in
Right,
there.
yeah, but now there's a lot coming out, and, yeah,
Yeah, because they have a place
yeah,
to
they got a
get
place to
into.
go,
Wow.
and he's got
That is.
concrete floors, so he has to, like, tear up the whole floor. Oh, it's
Oh
bad.
no.
Oh,
Oh no. This is awful.
uh,
But
yeah,
I do worry about these things that we should be measuring, and I think what you're
yeah,
bringing up to me is like there's those unknown unknowns that
yeah.
you don't know you should be measuring.
Yeah, I mean, there's, do you have a carbon monoxide
Right,
thing in your house? And what's the other
right.
one? Radon or something like that?
I think Raison's for server rooms, but there is another one that it checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the app I was just looking at had NO2, but is that nitrous oxide? I thought that's what NO2 was.
Yeah.
Let me check here. It
Well,
is
you may die,
nitrogen
but
dioxide.
your car is going to go really fast.
I think it's nitrogen dioxide.
Oh, okay.
The 2 in there is important. Yeah. PM 2.5, PM 10, VOC, and NO2, which is nitrogen dioxide, is one of the things we mentioned.
Okay.
So yeah, carbon monoxide is in the building, I think, and they do service them regularly, which is great. As well as we've got NO2 detectors, and I actually don't know why we need them, but we've got them.
Yeah.
I should know. There's a great article on the U.S. EPA that I've got here. Apparently, it's not good for you. It gets in the air from burning fuel, so maybe it's causes respiratory problems.
It's a slightly different topic. You shared a photo with me of a new toy, which I guess is lighting you now.
It's slightly out of frame. You can kind of see it. It's that little black.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Strip back there. I don't know if I change it, if it works. Let's see, like this. I had the app up. We'll see. You can kind of see it's on the wall there.
Yeah.
The problem it's from Amaran, and they've got this great app called CitusLink, but the app takes a long time to boot.
Yeah, I know.
And let's just say you've got a corporate policy on your phone that has to lock it out like every 5 seconds. So whenever I go to change the light, it has to scan the entire network again to find it, but it takes 40 seconds. So it's pretty annoying. But it's just this little thing here. It's not doing much, honestly. You can kind of see it blinking behind me. On, off. And there's red if we need red. Like red. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, but I do have a couple of aperture lights, and I will never buy them again, and I never use them because of that horrible app.
I really like the app, honestly. I just don't like the way it refreshes.
It's not on. I can't control it from anything but their app. I can't. It's not network addressable. It's not. I can't get to it.
It is definitely network addressable. However, it's on your network. It grabs some weird multicast address, so it is on the network. And I think it's got an API endpoint, but like I think it's secured. I don't think anyone figured out a way around it. They've got like keys on the app and the phone, and then it like does some sort of exchange with the light. And as soon as you do that, you're messed up. But when it goes into discovery mode, you can see it. The thing that I do when I hate the app is I just walk up to the light and I push the button. But like I totally agree with you. It would be great to be able to have it in Home Assistant or something like that. I primarily use it in the studio, so I can just walk up to it or get the subject that I'm taking a portrait of to push the button for me. It's not that
that's why I love. I mean, I have 2 of the Elgato key lights.
Right, and I've got one lighting me now,
and they're maybe not as high quality as the Aperture, but because not only can you use the app, but because both of them have a RESTful endpoint on the light that I can just ping that IP address. I have on my Stream Deck. I'm just doing a curl to each light and turning it on to what is my preset, and it just works.
Yeah, I was gonna go down that path. I think what you just brought up to me is like the way that I use it right now kind of annoys me. So it's one of those, again, those apps that's got like a proprietary interface, et cetera, et cetera. That part doesn't really bother me so much. What really ticks me off is that they want you to have your Wi-Fi on, even though it will work with the Wi-Fi off, because I've tricked it a few times. But the Wi-Fi needs to be on for it to work. And then if you're not careful with the network order in Mac OS, you'll end up on Wi-Fi primarily, or not even understand. I think I mentioned, like, I had my network cable unplugged for a while, for example. I didn't even know, because I happened to swap over to Wi-Fi because of this light. So unfortunately, that's a big pain for me. So
the
rest endpoint stuff is very interesting to me.
Well, I don't. So I don't use any of their software.
Good.
So I have on the Stream Deck, I'm using Companion, which is from Bitfocus, and the Stream Deck is actually hooked up to a Raspberry Pi that's Velcroed to the bottom of my desk.
Talked about this, yeah.
And that is just doing a curl, ping to that to each light. And so I am not. This Stream Deck is not connected to any Mac, and I can very easily turn the lights off, turn the lights on.
Now, Matt, I think you're missing something here. You really got to secure your lights. You gotta have a key exchange.
No,
that's what I was thinking about, like CitusLink. So what is
it makes sense
the risk?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you are the kind of person who is lighting for a show, and
Yeah,
there are there's maybe $100,000 per day for this
right,
particular show,
right.
and you've set up these lights that are lighting everything, and somebody just goes in and looking for a Sonos endpoint and finds your lights, and oh, well, let's see what this does.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
So
is a
it
good point.
totally makes sense because they are professional lights, and people are using them in professional settings. So it makes sense that they would do it, but that means I don't want to use them.
I think, and I could be wrong. I think most of those professional setups are DMX. I don't know what DMX means.
Yeah.
Is
And
that correct?
DMX, I mean DMX is supported,
Okay,
but it within a lot of aperture lights. I have one of
right.
the
I'm
Amaran
kind of talking
tube
out of my butt here.
lights.
Like I've never used
There
DMX before.
are
It's
well
kind of
there
like MIDI for
are
lights or something,
Yeah,
right?
there are bridges between that work with the Stream Deck that will then bridge to
Okay,
DMX, and there are DMX um, uh, equipment for doing wireless. So you just plug in a DMX wireless thing onto the light, and now you've got this wireless setup. But it's a lot. You have to go through a lot to get it working. And if you've got a DMX setup, then you're
right.
great.
Now,
But if you're getting started, it's not.
now DMX is ripe for a joke here, which is maybe why I find it funny and remember it. But do you know of the hip hop artist named DMX by
I
chance?
don't.
X go and give it to you.
No.
Okay. I will give you a quick story as to why I know this. There's a university close to my hometown called St. FX, and their sort of theme song was X Gonna Give It To You, which I've always found funny.
Mm.
DMX unfortunately had like a lung issue and
Mm.
made like barking noises a lot. So if ever you hear hip hop with
Mm.
barking, chances are it's DMX.
Okay.
And people laughed and laughed about it, but unfortunately, it was actually quite ill. Um, but
Wow.
this is why I remember that the protocol is called DMX.
Huh.
But I do find this kind of interchange really interesting. It's like a PLC network kind of thing for lights, or
Mm. Yeah.
apparently smoke machines can be on DMX too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can have like a whole routine set up that you
Yeah.
test,
For a
and then
big concert kind of setup.
yeah,
It's
exactly, and
great.
then run through the concert so that like all the
Yeah.
lights go at the same time, kind of
Yeah.
thing, up and down.
And you can have like I don't know what the max number is, but I mean I think you have thousands of lights on these things all controlled at once.
Yeah, I think you can
It's
have groups of groups, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, and
Yeah.
I think if just rope and work back into it again. I think when we're dealing with like one or two lights at home, like this pain is a
Yeah.
pain. But when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands,
Oh yeah.
then it
Totally.
makes sense to have something programmable.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Rest
Yeah.
endpoints, yeah. Would rest be the protocol you'd use? You want like exactly
I mean
one kind of thing,
I guess I mean having that by default, but then having the ability to turn it off for
right?
it
Like
I
secure it or
mean,
lock it down or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like I guess this is something that's relevant to or somewhat related to this is a bike company that is apparently having trouble. Have you heard of this Van Moof?
no,
Do you know about Van Moof?
no,
So Van Moof, VANMOOF, they are huge in it's a Dutch company,
right,
huge in Amsterdam. At KubeCon Amsterdam, you walk in the streets, there are these Van Moof bikes everywhere. They've got a distinctive style, and everybody has one of these Van Moofs. And
I've seen one. Yeah. I know
there's
that top bar is
yeah,
definitely
and there's another one from Cowboy, which is I think similar, but
okay.
it's a little bit different. Um, but and they've been selling all their bikes. I mean, they're expensive, but
Right.
considering what's in them, they're actually kind of cheap.
They look pretty sleek.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean they're about $2,000, which I mean
that's not too bad.
I have a Specialized that's not super fancy, but it's double that price.
Right.
And so it's very easy to get way more expensive, but they're selling these bikes for 2,000, and they come with if somebody steals your bike, they will find it, and if they don't find it, they will give you a new one.
Wow.
So as soon as you leave the bike,
That
it
sounds like
locks completely.
that sounds very Dutch to me.
Yeah. And so but only in
That's
cities
amazing.
that they have a location in. So they have
Okay.
a Seattle location, but not Bainbridge Island. So I can't, they have a New York location. All the big cities they'll have a look, San Francisco. So they
Right.
have to set up these locations, and they're selling their bikes for what seems like a low price for what they've got. I mean,
Yeah.
and they look super stylish.
Yeah.
And so they're having trouble. They're having trouble meeting, paying bills, and it looks like they might potentially go under in the next soon.
It
But
it looks like they have as of the 17th, which is
oh,
yesterday.
okay, well, so that's new news.
Yeah.
And but the app, you needed to use the app to unlock your bike, and the
Oh no.
app has updates,
Oh
and
no.
that you don't have access to the keys, like the physical, the security keys that
Right.
lock. It's untouchable to you.
Oh
And
no.
so apparently, Cowboy ran a hackathon a week or two ago, and
Okay.
they broke it and they got it working so that
Oh, that's
everybody's got
awesome.
their keys no matter what. If Van Moof goes under, which it sounds like they might have done yesterday, um,
The cowboy boys look very similar. Let me just
yeah,
say that.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I mean, one that's great. It seems kind of weird that a competitor would do this, but honestly, that's
yeah,
great that
yeah,
somebody figured it out. I think that's awesome. I would assume the hackathon had a prize, but even
yeah,
then, like whatever
yeah,
that prize was, is nothing compared to what they need. This is
right.
yeah, these are really cool bikes. I haven't seen either of these. These are nice.
Mm. Well, when I was looking at getting that Specialized, I was really close to getting the Van Moof because it's really cool looking.
Right.
But I'm glad I didn't.
Well,
I don't know.
maybe
I
I'm
mean,
an opportunist.
I mean,
I'm thinking like I would have liked to buy one used when people knew about the
yeah,
bankruptcy, but before the jailbreaking,
right, yeah,
because I'm one of those people. I'll buy three. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, that's really cool.
yeah. I mean, most bikes before, when they were just bikes and not with fanciness in them. I mean, you just buy a bike, and it's not like there's software updates for bikes, but now there's software updates for bikes,
Yeah, I mean,
and there's software updates for the motors in the bikes, and there's software updates for the brakes in the bikes, and there's software updates for the lights on my bike because I've got these lights from Lumos, which there's lights on the front and back that synchronize with the lights on my helmet, and so when
I
I want to
I think
turn
all of this
left,
is
it
okay.
blinks to the
It's just like
left.
what worries me is that like if I'm riding my bike and you're talking
Yeah,
about motors and there's
yeah,
software in the motor
yeah.
and there's something that goes on there that is what concerns me. The bike
Hmm.
unlock kind of as long as it doesn't lock while I'm driving,
Hmm.
I'm generally okay with. But
Right,
yeah, where software meets human mobility, I think is where I
right.
start to
Yeah,
ask questions, or like the ability to like I don't know, emergency situation. I got to leave my house. Can't use my car. Have
yeah.
to use my bike. Can't use my bike because the company went under and
Right,
the
right.
keys with them kind of
Exactly.
thing. Like,
Yeah,
and I didn't know about this because I don't read the news. I
yeah,
don't know. Maybe I live on
yeah,
Bainbridge Island.
yeah, yeah.
That's that yeah.
Oh,
That just puts a sour taste in my mouth, I guess. I really do agree with like IoT, but also maybe I think this is where open standards belong. But because of that,
yeah.
security becomes an issue. I,
Sure.
I look I look a lot at like Signal to think about how can we do security in the open
Hmm.
and keep it like so that people can use it for
Yep.
relative ease of use, but at the same time be secure. And yeah, this is kind of disappointing actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Ugh.
Hmm.
Well, that's okay.
Oh,
That's terrible news.
yeah,
It is a really nice bike, though. I
yeah.
guess I also hate when I find a product I really like, only to find
Oh,
out that
yeah.
they just went under. Sorry, you've been sleeping under a rock.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is awesome.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
played with a couple of e-bikes, generally
Well,
on vacation, and
yeah,
I've honestly really enjoyed them.
yeah,
It's it doesn't feel like biking to me. It feels
yeah.
more like scootering or motorized biking or something.
There's different types, different
Right,
styles,
right.
and different. There's some, like a lot of the Rad Power Bikes, which is a Seattle-based company.
Okay.
A lot of them, they just have a throttle, and you can, without even moving your pedals, you can start going. And
Yeah, I've
there's like
tried
the
2 of those.
Super 76, I think, is another like popular, trendy one.
Right,
Um, but the with the Specialized, you have to pedal, and
right.
if you stop pedaling, motor stops giving. It's
Oh,
basically an assist on top of the motor.
I think
But
that's okay,
with
like
that,
pedal assist, yeah.
yeah, and with that assist, I think the max speed is like 40 miles per hour. I mean, it will get you going really fast, and it's like
Yeah.
a 4 to 1 for every one whatever unit. It's going to generate 3 more or 4 more or something like that.
That's an amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
These rad power ones I'm looking at, just to describe to people who don't see the
Yeah.
screen that I'm looking at, have pretty cool design. So one of the things about the Cowboys is they had that mamachari design, which it's super Japanese, but it means like it doesn't have that top bar, so you can hop on and off.
Yes.
Chari is for chirinko. It's like a slang way of saying bike. Mama is for mom, so you can hop on and off the bike. They're
Well,
super popular in
in
Japan.
the Netherlands, it's
Normal, right?
Omafiets. It's
Okay.
Omafiets. It's a granny bike.
Oma, yeah, for
Yeah.
grandmother, exactly. And what I
Yeah.
noticed about the Rad Power ones is that they actually have like a seat in the back for kids
Oh, yeah.
or
Yeah.
stuff, which is
Or
awesome.
cargo or yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
such a good idea. And I think this is what we're missing from a lot of the bikes in North America, at least, is we don't think
Yeah.
of them as like utility vehicles.
Yeah.
It's not like a point A to B kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's something that you ride around on for pleasure.
Yeah.
When in
And
cities,
then there's
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and then there's others like I mean, there's another one that looks just like the Rad, which
Yeah,
is Turn. It's a Chinese company, but I think they're a bit more expensive than the Rads.
gotcha.
But they're super high quality bikes. And then there's also Urban Arrow, and they have some of the more Dutch looking things with the big front basket for like.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my friends has there's like a two men's names as the company name. I can't remember, something and something.
Okay.
And for that, I mean, there's like a big basket with with 2 bench seats, and he can put 4
Right.
kids in there.
Right.
And he has, and it looks amazing. I mean, with mine, I ended up getting a regular bike, but then putting a trailer on the back.
Gotcha.
And there could be 2 kids in the back there.
This Urban Arrow design is also really, really
super
smart.
cool.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some of these here. Vancouver's not really
Yeah.
a bike-friendly city. We're trying to get better, but we do have quite a few awesome bikes. I think I've seen this. These are
Yeah.
expensive though. These are in
Oh, yeah, they
Canadian
can
at
get-
least 11,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is like your primary vehicle. I
This is
think,
it. Yeah.
for people
This is
who are buying it, right?
yeah. The problem with some of those bikes, like the Urban Arrows and the, there is a vendor that like services them. A few companies, a few places that service them that are, dealers for them. They're all in Seattle. So if your bike breaks and you need to get it back there, you need a pickup truck because it's so big you
Right.
can't fit it in your car.
What they need to do
so-
is design a bike that can hold other bikes, right?
Yeah.
like a flatbed truck
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
And these turn ones are actually cool
Yeah,
too. It looks like
they're
they've got
really
like a
neat.
little baby seat kind of thing that you can attach,
Yeah.
which is really smart. That is awesome. See, this is what I want to see. Like electricity, totally get it. Now, if we're thinking about using bikes as a form of transportation, then like what else can we do while we're here?
Right.
And I think in other countries, these are already being used in
Yeah.
this kind of fashion. So it's good to see us kind of finding
Yeah.
out, because we're very much a car culture, and I'm not anti-car or anything like that, but
Yeah.
I definitely understand the benefit of like self-propelled
Mhm.
vehicles. Batteries are a whole other thing, but like trains, buses, bikes totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, this is really cool. Thanks for that. I feel like the more I look at these, the more I'm interested in grabbing one. Even though, like,
I mean, I haven't ridden my bike as much as I thought I would, but
Right.
whenever I go out, it's great. And the hills here are significant, and I don't know, I've got a lot of stored knowledge here in my stomach, so it's moving around is
stored knowledge. I like that. Right in the
knowledge.
belly.
Yes, yeah. There was a guy when I used to work at a analyst firm called Progressive Strategies in New York. There was another guy there, Mike Sleep. He was this big guy. Now I saw him like 10 years later, and he was like rail thin. So amazing change, but he was huge. And he would walk up to people and like give them a big bear hug and like lift them off the ground, like, "Arr!" And then but then he'd walk around like, stored knowledge. Arr! But I mean, like, yeah, he was super. He was great.
That is fantastic.
I was coming out of an elevator going to a meetup in New York City once. When I was living in Boston, but I happened to be in New York because I was going to New York a lot for Datadog.
Right.
And come out of this elevator, and there's Mike right in front of him. He's like, what? You're like a fifth of the size you used to be. How you look incredible. It was a bit of a shock, and then we haven't seen each other since.
Oh, that's too bad. In other news, as a Canadian, I need your
Mm.
help here. Can you explain to
Oh.
me if Claude 2 is better or worse than Bard? Because I get to try either
They
of these
both kind of
things.
suck.
Okay, because I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines, really wanted to try them out and give them a
Yeah,
run for their money.
I mean, it's weird. I mean, with Google and this stuff, they keep
Mhm.
saying, "Oh well, ChatGPT is not." Essentially, they don't say it in the exact words, but they essentially say, ChatGPT is not that great. What we're working on is a lot better, but we're not going to show you, and we're going to show you this other thing that's not really got that good, but we'll show it to
Right.
you. It's like,
Yeah, they've
what?
got unicorn, right? Is the level that we need to get to that
Like,
people don't
what?
have
Come
access
on,
to?
what is this stuff?
Give me that
I mean, and
unicorn.
and Claude, I mean, it's pretty cool. But it seems like a lot of the time that I go try to use it, it's slow or just doesn't respond, and then you try it again, and then it responds really fast, and so
Uh,
it's inconsistent. I think they're. I mean, because that's Anthropic, I think, is the
yes.
company,
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
and they're trying to do it like in a make sure it's like sane defaults and sane, not doing scary stuff, I guess, with AI, and they're trying to be humane,
Possible.
I guess, is there
Not
what
a
the
bad
right term
idea.
is. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
not a bad
mean,
idea.
so they've got good ideas, good ideals, um, but it seems to be sometimes great, sometimes not so great. I don't know. I'm full on the local stuff, of course,
Well, I
because that's
mean,
what we're doing.
you know,
Yeah.
I,
And oh my god,
I
we put it. I mean, there's a new version.
yeah.
I don't know if we've actually I don't think we've finally like pushed out a release for it,
Okay, so
but
I gotta
oh my
check the
god, it's
branches, or is there
well
some
for
portion
now,
there?
yeah, but I can
I
tell
can
you
check
about
out
it.
branches.
So right now, I mean, with most of these systems, if you if I want to share with you a model and how I've got it configured on my machine,
Oh yeah,
it's hard. I've got to
yeah.
tell you, okay, well, you need to download this model from Hugging Face, and you make sure you grab this particular file, and
This
then once you
version, yeah.
and that version, and once you get that file, okay, let me know which app you're using. Okay, then
Right.
go to top K and put in 0.2. Okay, got that. Okay, top P and put in 20, or
Yep.
I think it's the other way around. Okay, now temperature 0.8. Okay,
Right.
got that. Okay, great. Now here's this prompt, and it's like there's a system piece, there's a user piece, and
Right.
there's a assistant or the response piece. Okay, you got all that in there. Okay, great. Now you can start asking questions to it, and that's how you get it configured. And it's not quite as bad as that, because there'll be some sort of like the README that describes
Oh
everything, and
no,
you just copy and
it's
paste.
absolutely that
Yeah,
bad. Unless you're using the command line, and then that's a whole other host of
right.
problems.
So think back to, or you know what Docker's like. You've
Yeah,
used Docker, right?
I have.
So with a Docker file, you've got a from state. Inside the Docker file, you've got a bunch of instructions. There's
Right.
from, and then an image, and that image could be on Docker Hub, or it could be on your local machine, right? And then you've got maybe a run command, a bunch of other things, parameters, environment variables, all these things that you're bringing into your Docker container. So we have the same thing,
Hmm.
except you're from, and then a model that's on the Ollama hub,
Oh.
and which is a registry just like Docker. I mean, it's essentially a
Oh.
Docker registry,
Okay.
but for models. And so you got your model file declared within this Docker file, and then you have parameter instructions. So parameter top P is whatever, temperature is whatever, and then you've got a prompt. I think we're changing it so that there'll be a separate instruction for the user prompt, the
System prompt.
response,
Yeah.
and what's the format of the.
Right.
How is the model expecting information? How is it going to return information? That way
Right.
we can display it nicely. And so that's all within one model file, and you can share that model file and you'll be able to just use it and spin that up and have the exact same configuration all set up. It'll get a lot better when we also turn on pushing. So that within the Ollama tool, there's the idea of push, Ollama push, and then it'll be Ryan / my cool model.
Very
And then
cool.
you push your model up there, and then I can say, ollama run Ryan slash, and it just downloads it. If I've already grabbed the base model, I've already got that layer on my machine, so I don't need to download that again. It's going to download the other 3 or 4 layers based on parameters and prompts. So it's the
Right.
same layer model as a Docker file, but with AI.
Like
And
it.
so I've created like a prompt that says, okay, you are a chef. I'm going to input 3 or a series of ingredients, and
Right.
you're going to generate a recipe that I'm going to be able to complete in an hour. It should be for 4 people. You should end this with a description of what does this taste like. And it works. I mean, you hand it good ingredients, it creates this great recipe that looks like it would actually be good.
Right.
You hand it disgusting or a bad combination, it produces something really gross. Like I gave it sea bass milk and hot sauce. Oh, it looked evil.
Oh, yeah, like a white sauce, maybe on
Oh,
top
just
of a cooked sea
bad.
bass.
It was like a bowl of milk with a piece of fish in it. It was like gross.
I guess it depends on the culture.
Yeah, maybe,
Not for
maybe.
me.
But
So
so this is you define these, and you could have different model files that have
right.
different. One model file might be I need this model file to generate 10 tweets. I give it a topic, and it gives me 10 creative tweets that are really pretty good.
Right.
Or a Midjourney prompt, and it generates something that. And the things I've handed to Midjourney, I was like, I've never been able to get images out of Midjourney that are so cool.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of questions. I'll start with the easy one. So that scenario of me wanting to show you something cool, like let's say I grab some manga model and added some stuff to it, maybe some network or something like that, and send it your way. The first thing I notice is like my computer is different than your computer. So like works on my laptop is a problem now. Some of those models are massive, and they just won't fit into like the GPU memory, depending on the GPU you've got, or like you don't have enough system memory, and it becomes like this massive thing. I think it's like 7 billion versus 14 billion versus 11 billion, or
33 billion, 56 billion, 70 billion.
Like some of those I can't load at all. That's the first one. The other is, so there's like a model, and then there's like at least for graphics, there's like LoRa's, for example. There's something else that you add onto it, and then there's also like checkpoints, which is what I'm talking about when it comes to versioning. So it's like there's gonna be at least 30 parameters, and then there's at least 3 big files, or maybe like one JSON file and 2 big files that they're generally involved in this. And then there's a requirement of your machine. And one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting about like in the Docker workflow days, when we were talking about there's this tool called Kitematic. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before. But like when you're trying to run something on Kitematic, it would tell you like here are the requirements, here are the ports that need to be open. When there's a port conflict, it would let you know that kind of stuff. I feel like at this point in time there needs to be some sort of sanity check beyond set up all 30 of these parameters, load up your 2 models, download them from the internet, wait an hour because Hugging Face is busy, try to load them up, and then nothing happens. It runs for a couple seconds and get a blurry image or like some text that doesn't make sense, and it's just like it doesn't work.
And we don't have that in right now, but that's
I'm not saying you should. I just thought like that collaboration is a pain.
It's something that we discussed actually on our meeting this morning. Is that there should be, before you start downloading these massive models, and you're trying to use a 70 billion parameter model on a 8 gigabyte machine, M1 or whatever, it should tell you, well, that's not going to be a good experience. Are you sure you want to do? Like, confirm that user really wants to do this before they do it. We don't have that now, but we will. And all these changes. I mean, the idea of the model file. This has been ever since the beginning 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. It's been a key thing because I mean, one of the guys on the team, I mean, he kind of built Docker Hub. I mean, he was a guy who ran that for a long time. And the 2 founders, I mean, a long time Docker, and so they know this stuff, and they've always known it's going to be around these layers. And you mentioned LoRa, QLoRa, that'll be another layer on this. And so you've got one model with 2 different training sets. You download the model once, you've got that manifest already downloaded. Now all you need to do is download just what's different, just that QLoRa piece, PEF piece
That's what I was
and that's
kind of getting
it.
at as well, because those checkpoint files
Yeah.
to me, like, why am I downloading another
Yeah.
10 GB file when I've already
Yeah.
got the previous version right here?
So
There's
there's
no
a
diff
hash
or
that's
anything
made
like
of
that.
each one, and that hash identifies each of those files so that you only download it one time
That's pretty cool.
and you don't need to download it again.
Yeah, it does seem like, at least the overlay file system, for example,
Yeah.
in Docker, does seem like if there's some way to, instead of just naively zipping this thing up, which is what I think the CKPT files are,
Yep.
you could actually maybe, to hear me out,
Yeah.
do a diff prior to the zip
Yeah.
and figure it out that way, because it does seem like we're just transferring
Yeah.
gobs of info yet again on just this new
Yeah.
platform kind of thing. We're just sending blobs around, and I look at their hosting, like Hugging Face has kind of that GitLab feel. I don't know if it is, but it's got like LFS turned
Yeah.
on, and like it does kind of feel like Git.
Yeah.
It just having run Git repos with massive files, like, this is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a pain.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely other tools out there that do a really great job of curating the models and making sure that the right models for the tool are in a list, and a nice list. I mean, GPT for All does a great job of this, as
Okay.
well as LM Studio.
Okay, because my
That was
experience
one.
is that that's not the case at all. Okay, that's good to hear, because like
LM
it does.
Studio is, I
Yeah,
mean, definitely out
Prompt
of all
Studio,
of
you
them
said?
right now, I think LM Studio is the most
LMs.
beautiful of the tools. I mean, it's a great looking UI. It's not easy to get started with. It's pretty cryptic to figure out what to do first and next. But once you know the process, it's great. I mean, their curation of models and being able to download the right model and it supports a lot of different loaders. It's great.
Nice.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I just
It's
built this
one
like
guy. There's one guy doing it on his spare time.
yeah,
And
Gil
he's been
Borowski.
working
Yeah,
on it for like 2 months.
he's here in New York,
Really cool.
or there in New York. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is really cool. So it looks like they started working on it March 2nd, kind of thing, and
Mm-hmm.
they've been at it since.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to me, because I feel like this is where we're at now. Is like that
Mm-hmm.
that way of telling people, hey, it's really easy, just watch this video, and then it's like,
Right.
it's not that easy at all. Actually,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a pain. The alternative is, for someone who's like Canadian, for me, is you've got one alternative. You can play with ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
or you can do it your
Yeah.
own, because like a lot of
Yeah.
the other ones just aren't cleared for release in Canada yet. So Bard
Yeah.
is one. We just talked about Cloud. Definitely
Yeah.
not one at this point in time. So if you want to play around with this and maybe train, which is what
Yeah.
I'm really interested in, well, what does that look like? The other thing is, like, when you're training, you mentioned the recipe, right?
Yeah.
Running through the same, like, versions of different checkpoint files, you should be able to put in the same output and get either the same or better output.
Mm-hmm.
But I've found that sometimes the newer model will have like worse in some areas but better
Right.
in others, kind of
Right.
thing. So it's sometimes hard to figure out where the trade-off is,
Right.
and where it's skewed. Like if there's a spider graph, so this one's much better at code than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, you're missing, like, you can't write the bar anymore. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, the different
Yeah.
models have different strengths, but I feel like that's also missing. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no spider graph for me to look at all of them together and figure out which one I'm
Right.
going to use, because maybe I want to have a few loaded and like load up a
Yeah.
different model depending on what I'm doing. And I think what you're saying here about like some people having really good curated versions, what
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, at least in the commercial tools, is that seems to be what they're actually doing. Like
Yeah.
in the background, like a Midjourney, for example, which I think is based on Stable Diffusion, or maybe Stable Diffusion XL.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure. It is definitely proprietary. So whatever they're using
Yeah.
on their back end is Stable Diffusion plus plus, and we don't know what the
Right.
plus is. Or
Right.
you've got Leonardo.ai is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you can tell I'm mostly interested in
Yeah.
the graphical portion, but like
Sure.
these different companies will use something similar, a similar approach, but they'll have that secret sauce. And I
Right.
think what a lot of people are trying to do is figure out their secret sauce, because there's
Right.
stuff missing in the market that
Yeah.
they want to do. I want to make manga drawings
Mm-hmm.
of servers.
Yeah.
Very simple, man. And
And
so far, like, Canva is the only one that I've been
yeah.
able to do it with reliably. So that's kind of what I'm at. And honestly, this isn't for work or anything like that. I'm just like, I like playing
Yeah.
around with it. But to get to a specific result takes a lot of time in these other ones. And
Mm-hmm.
if I want to share that with you, it's very
Yeah.
difficult. So I hear you.
Yeah. With the like the Midjourney prompt thing that I have, and
Right.
the actual Docker file or the model file is actually on our repo. It's in examples, and it's basically I found the prompt on a prompt guide AI or something like that,
Okay.
and it works really well. And and it will. I gave it. I gave my thing the words. Uh, um, was it platform engineering?
Okay.
That's all
I
I
like
gave.
it.
Just platform engineering.
I like it.
And I mean, I did it like a few times because as I've been playing around with it and
Yeah.
changing
Yeah. It's
temperature and all
helpful.
the
Yeah.
things, and it made a few images. One that was like this um, ocean scene with these two massive oil platforms, but they're round and there's waves crashing over everything, and there's like
Oh,
cities on top of the platforms. I mean,
yeah.
platforms,
You,
and
you, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
oh
Like
my god,
I
it
couldn't
was
give a shit about the image,
gorgeous.
honestly, but like the concept that it came up with is super powerful to me.
How? Yeah,
Because
how they
now
come up with that?
because now when I go to write like some slides, I can think, oh yeah, platform engineering. Let's use this
Yeah.
like oil tankers
And
on the
so
water under construction.
Midjourney didn't come up with the idea of using the ocean stuff.
Right.
That's what I've
Yeah.
handed it to New Hermes or whatever that model, and it came up with the Midjourney prompt, which was like included all sorts of details that were like,
Oh,
well, that's
nice.
not what I was thinking, but that's amazing.
Yeah. I
And
find
another
that
one with
brainstorming stuff is really
cubes,
cool.
three-dimensional cubes going in and out, and lines, and it's like, wow, this is gorgeous.
Now your mic's hot.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, see, like I feel like that's the issue. A lot of the times I have a
Yeah,
hard time coming up with
yeah,
symbolisms for things. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like what is the icon that
yeah,
describes the schedule? What does it look like? Is it a calendar?
yeah,
Probably, maybe, maybe not.
yeah,
Those kind of things I think about all the time. Like what would this image be when I'm talking about
yeah,
this topic? Is a question I have a lot. Like in my
yeah.
job,
I'm gonna if you give
surprisingly,
me a word, I'm gonna try to find the literal, like, what is the
yeah,
what is that literally? What would be the thing? And it's not gonna be exciting. It's gonna be three lines on a, like, because I'm not an artist, and I hand this thing is like, there's no way I could have ever come with it up with that idea, and even if
right,
I had that idea, it would look nowhere near as good. And this
right.
is spectacular.
Yeah. One of them I tried to come up with recently was I was doing a webinar on cloud cost optimization, pretty popular
Uh-huh.
topic these days. And we've got a product
I
with an
hear you
icon.
have a solution for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. We've got a product that has a logo. It's a cloud with a dollar sign in the
Uh-huh.
middle. But of course, that's
Creative.
again not
You
knocking
got
it. It's
you pay
obvious
them the
what's
big bucks.
it's obvious what's happening. But I didn't know we had an icon, so I
Mhm.
found it in our template kind of thing, on our website. It's there as well. But I tried to come up with different ideas, and I found that I think the way that I think is I thought is pretty open ended, but it turns out when you're talking to one of these neural networks or LLMs that there's just a lot. There's a lot of boundaries that I guess
Right.
your experience kind of molded your brain to think a certain way.
Mhm.
It's like calcification basically. So I'm always going down the
Right.
same path. And
Right.
and yeah, it might be literal. Well clouds are they look like this, and for money, I
Yeah.
mean probably the dollar sign.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I get it. On the other hand, like optimization might be something else completely. So it could be somebody
Yeah.
on a cloud, like shaving off
Right.
with a
Yeah.
lathe, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like completely different things that I would
Yeah.
never have thought of before. And I find that part amazing. And it's often that I don't actually need the output. It's that I need that creative conversation. That's what's actually really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So turning on a model, running something and turning it off is fantastic. I don't want to run something in Azure for 3 weeks or pay some sort of upfront bill or anything like that. I just
Yeah.
want to, one-offs here and there.
Yeah.
And that's
That made me think of I don't know if these are real game shows, but I've seen plenty of videos of
okay.
like Japanese game show-esque things where they've got like a big cutout of an image of a person in a weird doing a weird position, and it's coming across them, and there's a pool, and they're gonna if they either like have to put themselves in the right
Uh-huh.
position to fit through the hole, or they fall in the pool.
This is a
I
real
don't know.
game show.
Is it? Okay.
It's probably Gaki no Tsukai. I should know what that means. Unfortunately, I don't. Somebody in the background might yell it. The other one is Takeshi's Castle, which had a lot of these kind of things. And Takeshi's Castle, I think, became MMCX in the US with like voiceover.
Mm.
Or American Ninja Warrior is very similar
Mm.
to like Takeshi's Castle. But
Right.
absolutely, these are real
Yeah.
game shows. I mean,
And so
they're
I
definitely
imagine
set up
like
to laugh. But
so
yeah.
I'm imagining like a shape in the sky with a cloud that's almost the right shape, but
Right.
has somebody like sanding off the side to make it fit in that hole.
Exactly.
Yes.
Uh,
And
or,
yet,
or
even with that idea, what I'd end up with drawing is like this horrible scratch of lines
but
and
I mean, this is where when you can talk
yeah,
to the highly paid, highly skilled
yeah,
artisans, like,
yeah,
what if we tried this for this like
yeah,
final banner
yeah.
image or something like that, right? What I really like about Datadog, and again, my opinion doesn't represent the company at
Mhm.
all, but I love our banner images that are on a lot
Yeah,
of the blog posts,
yeah,
and I find those like that
yeah.
creative process of coming up with that idea of like, is it marching ants,
Right,
moving pieces of data back and forth, like all that stuff to me is
right.
super super interesting, but it's hard for me to think that way, unfortunately. My
Yeah,
brain's just not wired that way.
yeah,
And I really find that amazing to me. And because I think I'm missing it, I lack that skill. It's nice to have like a sounding board that I can kind of work
right.
with. It's not really collaborative, but it kind of feels collaborative to just come up with new ideas and then yeah, just go down that path. Anyway,
Yeah,
this is
yeah. I
my
mean,
my love affair with AI.
back when I owned the Datadog blog and had to write all the posts for it, coming up with images, I was never creative like that. I mean, that at that role, I kind of sucked at it. So and like fumble around for a screenshot. That's about as best I could do.
Now, when you go
Um,
around walking the city, are you taking pictures of like locks or broken locks, things like that? In terms of like, because some of these things I know, like they're symbolic of
yeah,
security, right? So I do take
yeah.
pictures of locks or broken doors and things like that to show that,
Hmm.
like, hey, it's open but closed, like kind of weird
Mm,
things. But that's about as far as I go. Like, I
yeah,
really don't
yeah,
have much more. They're kind of like
yeah,
overused sort of things. They're like containers on a container ship to
yeah.
represent Docker containers, like very
Right,
literal.
right. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I feel like this is going to come up with like I
Tupperware.
don't know some other yeah.
Yeah, those are containers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Having gone through this exercise before, yeah,
yeah,
container can mean a lot of things.
right,
But I again, and that's kind of like our language model as
right.
well. Is like it depends on the language that you're dealing with. But I have put in like Japanese and French prompts into some of these
Mhm,
models, and it works pretty well, which is like a whole other thing. So you
mhm,
understand translation as well
right.
as other stuff, depending on the model that you're using, which I find super super
Well,
interesting.
the original Transformer paper talked about doing this for translation. That was the original goal, was
Gotcha.
translation.
That makes sense. Okay, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that totally makes sense because
yeah,
I've noticed that some of these can actually translate English to Japanese
mhm,
and back, which is
yeah,
really difficult. The and back part often
yeah,
gets kind of messed up pretty well.
yeah.
It's one of those Google Translate things. You can put English in on one side, Japanese on the other, and just keep swapping back. And after about 5 times, it's just gone.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
listen, sorry to talk about AI yet again,
No, this is good.
yeah. Did you other than like I think that's the main thing I want to talk about is this light back here. Like, I'm super happy it just arrived
Yeah,
prior to the
yeah.
call. But like, did you pick up anything that we should know about or watch any TV shows or movies
No,
or any other?
well, I did pick up something. It's
Wow,
nothing new and amazing, but it's nice to have.
what is it?
It's I just got just the standard Apple
Ah, yeah,
keyboard, but
yeah,
the one with the
yeah.
fingerprint
I do not have
read
that.
the
Mine has
fingerprint reader at the
mine. Yeah,
corner.
mine has a lock button, unfortunately. But yes,
And so and with the original M1 Mac Mini
yeah,
works great.
nice.
Um, looking at the Amazon listing, it should not work because that is not one of the supported things. You look on the Apple site and it says, "Oh, absolutely, M1 Mac Mini, no problem."
Oh, okay. I
But
didn't know that.
yeah, but it works great. And so being able to use to log in as well as SSH with the keypair stuff before we and pivoted.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And are you one of those laptop users who closes the lid and uses it? Because that's
no,
okay. That's the main thing for me. Is like I prefer actually have the lid closed and have more monitors because like as cool as this monitor is, I'd much rather use a bigger one. But I've
hmm
got it open now just so I can reach over and hit the
yeah,
fingerprint thing because I really do want a proper monitor instead
right.
of the laptop monitor. But I
Well, the
get it. They
laptop
they
monitor
overheat
is
stuff
like
like that.
so much higher quality
But
than
it's
any other
small.
monitor you're gonna get.
But it's small. I like big
16-inch
monitors.
monitor is pretty good. Oh,
Yeah.
do you have one of the small
I
MacBook?
think I've got the 14. Yeah.
I don't understand people getting the small monitor,
I
small
out
MacBook
of my
Pros.
hands. Yeah,
Yeah,
out of my hands.
yeah, I don't
For sure.
understand
I'm
it.
just gonna quickly check about this Mac. Yeah,
Yeah,
14 inch, 2021.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just
yeah. I mean, people
too
say,
small.
"Oh, well, it's lighter." The heaviest is pretty light. Even the 17-inch when they used to sell that was pretty light. In fact, last night I went to a meetup with it was hosted by Dropbox and Elastic,
Cool.
and there were several times I had to like go check my backpack because I thought, wait, my laptop's not in my bag. It felt so light. It's like I didn't even know it was there, and I had to make sure. Okay, there's something
Yeah.
hard there.
Yeah. So you're getting stronger.
It's
all that storage.
Stored knowledge.
I'm looking around my desk, but I don't think there's too much more that I picked up. I try not to buy too many things. You know, I get stuck buying stuff.
I try to.
Yeah, try to fail. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about art. However, and I'm trying to think of the one that I'm specifically watching, but it's like there's just I think again in terms of, sorry, I'm stammering a little bit here, but in terms of areas that I don't have a lot of knowledge in, so
Yeah.
history, geography, and generally anything about the arts, I'm kind of like self-taught in that area, so I really don't know a lot about painting, for example, or sculpture. I know a little bit about photography, but like outside of that, not much. And I think the danger in photography, not to go down this rabbit hole too much, is that you're being inspired by other photographers, but those photographers are being inspired by painters or graphic design or what have you.
Yep.
And I think it's just called Art Explained. Great Art Explained is what it is. And I would highly recommend it. It's like the Van Gogh one was there. The
Van Gogh one.
It was Starry Night specifically.
Think,
sorry,
okay.
Yes, the Van Gogh painting.
He did some more than just one.
I think so. Yeah, the Mona Lisa's in there. The David.
Okay.
I didn't know that Rodin, for example, wasn't a sculptor. That the thinking man, and that there are many of them. Moment for me. This is how ignorant I am about art. So I really thought it was interesting. Keith Haring, for example, blew my mind. I had no idea. John Singer Sargent, I watched the other day. George O'Keefe's on the next list. It's just like blowing my mind. I had no idea.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is like I don't like history, but I think art history to me is very important. Like, here's what was happening at the time. There was a war, maybe there were two wars, and like this really affected the person and their art and their output, and this is why they did it. That kind of stuff. Just amazing to me. It's like really, really interesting.
Walk around Amsterdam and like all the streets are named after artists of the 19th century, and like my parking lot that where I had my car until I could get a street parking permit was on a street called Hover Flinkstraat, which was a painter. Hover Flink, not Hover Flinkstraat, but
off the street, right?
Yeah, and that was and all in the area called the Pipe. A lot of the streets there are all named after.
Was it possibly Govert Flink?
Govert.
Okay.
Hovert.
Oh, the G is an H. Okay. There we go. Now
there's more of a sound in there.
Like, the Govert Flink.
Hovert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Foley
sound. Yeah.
But yeah, great Art Explained on YouTube is my recommendation. I think in terms of stuff you can watch that's free.
Yeah,
it's quite good. It's like one mid-roll ad. That's it.
Well, I mean, come to Amsterdam or go to Amsterdam is a good recommendation there. Like specifically for Van Gogh Van Gogh. It's something like
right?
That.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Van Gogh.
It's at the Van Gogh Museum. There, at least the last couple of times I went, they had a bunch of his paintings in the lobby. You know, when you're paying, but in an interesting way where they have it on a pedestal, and so that way you can see the front, but you can also see the back where it's another painting that he started but he didn't finish, or maybe a sketch of something and he just flipped it over because he didn't like that.
Yeah, they mentioned that sometimes they peel, like they could x-ray layers and see other stuff. The Mona Lisa was in there apparently.
Oh yeah,
been redrawn a couple times, which I thought was like incredibly cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. The problem is I went to the Getty when I went to LA, and I was like, oh, art's actually kind of neat.
Yeah.
It's kind of went from there, because like honestly, mostly I'm interested in photography. And I haven't really looked into painting, but now that I'm looking at it in terms of composition and stuff like that, it's really cool. Color value, that kind of stuff. It's very, very cool.
Well, next time you're in New York for Datadog, they got a lot of great museums there.
I've not seen one.
What?
I'm so bad.
Metropolitan.
Apparently the Met's amazing. I've not been.
And the MoMA.
It's not.
Even some of the like lesser known.
I've heard.
a
Yeah.
there's a one of the mansions, like I don't know if it's on Fifth or on the other side of the park, but one of the mansions like right up against the park is a is a great museum on its own. I can't remember what the museum was, but then there's I mean even as you go further north into I guess it's into Harlem. There's the Cloisters, which is I assume it's still open, but a great museum of more medieval art.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I mean, there's so much and the what's that one over on the western
I'm
side?
so bad. I used to
Anyway,
go into museums and be like, neat.
yeah,
It's gonna
yeah,
take the person like 5 years to paint.
yeah,
It's just yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it looks cool.
yeah,
Without thinking about like, yeah, like
yeah,
what was happening at the time, that kind of stuff. Like this is a
yeah,
real person who spent some
yeah,
real time on this. Yeah. I guess
yeah,
that
yeah.
empathy was
It's
maybe missing.
Cooper Hewitt, is it, or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much in New York, and but there's so much in I mean here in Seattle, and I think you've got some stuff up there.
Yeah, SF is the next one. We've got the Vancouver Art Gallery. I
Right.
almost called it by its nickname. It's VAG. Is it's you can guess what we call I'm so sorry. But I went to Chicago Museum of Contemporary Art, for example. I think
Mm-hmm.
was maybe where it first started, and I was like, oh,
Right.
this is really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Once you start, especially the tours actually are really interesting
Yeah.
if they're small
Yeah.
because you can have a conversation with the tour guide, and they do.
Right.
They're like wealth of knowledge. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Or
So
even, I mean, most of these museums also have an audio guide. I mean,
right,
it's another way for them to make a little bit of money, but you
yeah, yeah.
pay. I mean, and it's usually some good stuff. At least to give you the context of what was going on at the time.
Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna take all of this and like just really disappoint you here. So like with this knowledge, what I'll then say is like, what would Van Gogh paint in 2020? That's so bad. Or a photographer primarily would shoot in black and white. What would that
Yeah.
look like in color? That kind of stuff. But I
Would
really
he
do
be a
find
fan of Midjourney?
maybe Da Vinci would
Yeah.
love Midjourney.
Yeah.
Based on
Yeah.
what I know of Da Vinci, which
Yeah.
is pretty small so far. But I find that this whole I think its style transfer is the kind of one of the first unique kind of things that they started doing. So like this photo is in this style, this one is not. Let's take that style and transfer it onto it and give you a new
Mm-hmm.
image. I find is amazing. Same thing with writing styles. Like, can you make it more
Yeah.
jovial, or can you
Yeah.
write this in Matt's tone of voice instead of mine?
Right. Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just over the moon about like that
Yeah.
kind of thinking about art, which I had not done
Yeah.
before.
Wow.
That's all I got for you.
Yeah. I was looking over at my desk. I don't see anything that's new. I don't think I've accepted any packages. I mean, this
All right.
keyboard was the last thing.
You
There
haven't
were a
been
bunch of
playing
things for a
Final
while.
Fantasy 16? No, I picked that up, but
Nah.
I haven't really tried it yet.
You know, I go through phases where I'm like, I pick up my Switch, and it's still just a Switch Lite.
Right.
So it's
Again,
a
it's pretty small.
smaller screen.
Yeah.
And so I play for that for like 2 months nonstop. Every night I'm playing it for a couple of hours and
Wow.
switching games and having a great time. And then I could easily go 4 months without touching it.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah. And I'm in the middle of the 4 months.
Yeah. There you go.
I did get something else.
What'd you get?
And so I don't know if you're similar on whatever social media sites, whether it's TikTok or Facebook, or you get these ads for certain things. And one of them was, the idea of the safety razor.
Okay.
So there's a number of companies that are like Supply, I think, and Henson, and there's a bunch of companies that are selling these. Basically a system that a safety razor.
This is like marketing genius, by the way. Safety razor does not look safe to me.
No, yeah. I mean, and so it basically, I just got one from. We got our one visitor.
Look at
from
that.
today from Australia.
G'day.
So I got one of these Henson razors. And it's basically, I mean, it's the same. There's nothing fancy about this. It's the exact same design that's existed for. I mean, I remember playing with. I don't know if it was my grandfather's one or something, which was actually a little bit more fancy than this. But just a simple piece of metal that you get a little razor blade and shove in there, and it's like a flexible razor blade. And and it's one piece, and it does a great job. And the razors are, I mean, the base unit, I mean, you can get cheaper ones, but this one was, I don't know, $50 or something for a nice chunk of metal.
Yeah.
And then the razors are, I think there was like
The blades.
100. Yeah, the blades are like 100 blades for like $5 or
It sounds
something.
about right. Yeah. That's why
And so,
Gillette's putting more of them on each razor.
yeah. And because there's enough space between, there's a big enough hole, that the hairs don't get all clogged up, and you end up like spending half the time just pulling each hair out of the space
Yes.
between the
Yes.
three blades.
So annoying. Yeah.
So I've kind of gotten into that recently.
Our fan is saying that they always miss us. I apologize. We try to be regular. I don't know. You should be able to put it in your calendar. Most of the time, we tend to be Tuesdays, our time around 2 p.m.
Yeah.
We try.
Yeah. We today, well, and it, I guess it depends. So this time, luckily, I saw the Slack message from Ryan about
signal.
10 minutes before we were supposed to start, which he sent probably 20 minutes before. Hey, are we going to do this today? And
oh no, that was this morning.
Oh, was it this morning?
But did you not message me on Saturday asking me
I did.
if we were going to stream on
what
Sunday?
What are we going to talk about tomorrow? And then it wasn't until like late at night I was like, wait, today's not Monday, it's Saturday.
So of course I got in from just walking around the city later, and isn't that okay? Should we check in on him?
Yeah.
You poor thing. All right, shall we find the end stream button? Sorry, Drifter.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Drifter Thrifters wants to
chill, wants to hang.
Well, what did we talk about on? So he knows whether it's worth like reviewing.
Yeah,
we did a lot of AI stuff.
We definitely talked about bikes.
Bikes. Oh yeah, electric bikes. And the demise of VenMoF.
Yeah, air purification and
air purification. Yeah, I'm not going to die anymore.
Yeah. Not setting an alarm for 7 a.m. That is fair. I think time zones are a whole thing, right? Being in Australia can be difficult. We could always
just wake up at 5.
Later, yeah, exactly. Just wake up at 5, Drifter. It's easy. You got kids. You know the drill.
Yeah. It's the time that I got free.
I think the main thing that we end up talking about a lot of the times is quality of life improvement, like elimination of toil in the real world. Seems to be what we're looking for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's still of interest.
Okay, I'll find that button.
All right, sir. Drifter, have yourself a great one.